When weaving is a priority in your life, you find a way to make it work, even if you don't have a lot of space. Today, we visit Penny Parker and we check out how she makes her home work for her. Let's go see.
Hi everyone, my name is Penny Parker. I have been weaving for 6 years now. I started out weaving baby wraps when my daughter was just about 6 months old, and over the last 6 years I have transitioned to more scarves and outerwear, that sort of thing. This is my little home studio. I live in a townhouse in Waterloo. As you can see, I have artwork all over the walls. I've got hand spun yarn on the wall behind me. I have pillows that I've made, and then this is my giant loom. It's a Macomber. It's got 10 shafts, and the really cool thing about it is that it is 56 years old. So it was actually made in the States for the Rochester Institute of Technology and somehow made its way up here into Canada, where I am now the owner. I redid all the shafts, so every other shaft is painted hot pink. Kind of like my personality, very bright. And this is my weaving bench, which I had upholstered for me because many hours of weaving hurts my behind because, you know, bony. And if you want to come this way, you can also see some of my actual woven pieces. I keep them all in this dresser here, and I have multiple different pieces that are made with either bamboo or cottons or silks, and these can all be found on my website. But yeah, this is my little homey studio. It's nothing fancy, but I like to be very creative, so I have lots of different types of warps. This is a piece that I just finished recently, and it's made all in silk, and it's done in a diamond huck pattern, so it's kind of neat because you can actually see through the diamonds, and it gives it a really cool texture. All right, so this is where I do a lot of my dye work as well as measuring out my yarns. You can see by the splatters all along the wall that I'm not super clean with it all the time. And if you want to see some of my yarns, they're in this cute little cabinet here, which I have to keep locked because I have a cat, and she likes to steal my yarn. So I have a bunch of different colors of cotton on the top here, and then these are all my specialty yarns down here, such as silks and merino. This one's coffee and milk, I think it was. I think they called it cafe au lait. But it feels really soft and spongy, and I can't wait to use it. And then I've got some of my hand-dyed yarns back here. These are, what do you call it? Cashmere and silk. And then over here, I have a multi-purpose station with all my dyes and paintings for my daughter. Hold on, there we go. And my nail supplies, because I also do my nails. I guess this is kind of what happens when you have a home studio. You just kind of mix your personal and your business stuff together a lot of the times. And then this is my my winding station. So this is my 3-skein winder, and then my umbrella swift, and I've got my pern winder and my ball winder down there. So pretty much all of my stuff is everywhere throughout my house.
I think that's a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's nice because I don't have to leave the house to work. So it's a very cozy space, and I really like it.
So can you tell us what made you decide you wanted to start weaving?
Ooh, that's a good question. When my daughter was first born, I started wearing her in machine woven and stretchy wraps, and I had discovered through our local baby wearing chapter that there were such a thing as hand woven wraps. And of course, then I had to try one. So I got my hands on my very first one, and I loved it so much that I started becoming addicted to these hand-woven pieces of fabric. And I had made some friends in the weaving community and asked them if they had any leftover pieces that I could use to make into purses. And as payment, I would make them a purse. And I had a lot of weavers who really liked that idea. And then I had one weaver in particular who did not like the fact that I was messaging weavers and was quite rude about it. And I said, okay, well then I'll just weave my own. And so I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube, bought my first loom, and started making fabric. And the original purpose was to make fabric that I could make purses out of. But as soon as I started weaving, I completely threw the sewing aside and wanted to focus on the weaving because I loved it so much. The creativity, the freedom of the colors, and my goal was to weave something that I could wear my daughter in, which I did, and that got a lot of people interested, and my business kind of just grew from there. And I've been doing it ever since.
So I will put how to get in contact with you in the description of this video, but can you tell us how people can find you on Instagram? Like, can you give us the information?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me on Instagram under Pieces by Penny. There's an underscore at the end of it. And you can also find me on Facebook under the same name. I also have a website that I can't remember the exact description of at the moment, but we will put it in the comments after. And that's where you can purchase ready-made pieces. And if you want to do any custom work, you can contact me through either Instagram or Facebook.
Okay, I think it's obvious because you're sitting at your loom, but do you prefer warping front to back or back to front? What are the pros and cons?
That's a good question. I actually learned how to warp from front to back, and when I got a different loom that the back beam didn't come off and I couldn't fit inside of it, I had to do back to front, and it was a nightmare. I hated it. And then I got a different loom so I could do front to back again, and then got a new loom that was a sectional beam, so I had to learn how to warp sectionally, which was actually pretty awesome, but then having to warp back to front, I still did not care for. So I'm a front to back convert, mostly because I feel like I'm getting so much more done when I do these little steps at a time, rather than winding it all on first and then doing the other steps. Maybe that's just how my brain works. But this is about 3 hours of work. This is about 6 hours of work, which I chop up into 2 days. And then winding it on usually takes a few hours depending on how long the warp is. And that's the exciting part for me because then it means I'm ready to weave. All I have to do is tie onto the front.
Do you have a favorite thing to weave, as in a favorite structure, a favorite draft? Do you have anything that's a favorite for you?
I do actually. I have a couple favorites. So one of my favorite drafts is actually one that I made about 5 years ago, and it's an 8-shaft pattern that's very lacy looking. And the other pattern that I'm really enjoying right now is the diamond huck pattern, because it gives it not just a really neat look visually, but it gives it such cool texture. And because it's a little bit more airy, it's great for like a summer shawl, so you don't overheat. And as far as what I like to weave specifically, I think that's pretty obvious. I like shawls and scarves for the most part, but I do still do the occasional baby wrap for, you know, a close friend or a really excited customer.
Okay, last question is, if you had any advice to give an aspiring fiber artist, what would it be?
Jump in with both feet. That's probably my best, I lost the word. Advice, thank you. Yeah, when I started weaving, I had never taken a class. I had no practice whatsoever, but I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube that taught me how to warp and weave on a floor loom, and got my hands on a loom, and once I could actually see it and do it, I found it so much easier than just trying to figure it out in my head. And if you take things in small manageable chunks, it definitely makes it seem less daunting. So instead of just being like, oh my goodness, I have to do this, 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 and this in order to weave, you just think, well, I just need to do this to get to the next step. And once I do the next step, then I can do the next step. And it makes it seem a lot less overwhelming.
Awesome. Thanks for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I picked out a couple videos I thought you guys might like. You can check it out here or here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll meet you there.